the answers, the preppers believe there is something to these predictions of doom.
There are a lot of diverse people that are pretty worried. Whether it's a religious aspect or whether it's just a gut feeling, there are people that have an understanding of the future.
Whatever is coming, Paul Range and his family are ready for the worst.
And we're prepared because we have our own food. If need be, we have our own source of power. We have somewhere around 40 to 50,000 pounds of food in the container and another 3,000 in the buses right now.
We have dried sweet potatoes here. We have pastas and rices, chicken soup, lima beans, red beans.
Here is bacon that I can.
If we had a end-of-the-world scenario that happened tomorrow, we would be able to support up to 22 people for between 15 and 20 years. We have solar panels, we have wind generators. With a flick of the switch, we could be off the grid in just a few moments. There's a lot of predictions out there. It's always good to be prepared.
Throughout time, prophets have claimed to see the future through shadowy visions, cryptic codes, and religious texts. Some say one ancient culture used their mastery of astronomy to see a future foretold by the movement of the stars.
When we talk about ancient prophecies and predictions, for many people, one of the first visions that comes to mind, the ideas of the ancient Maya.
And some believe that the Maya saw prophecies in the stars that warned of the coming annihilation of the world.
The Maya are the indigenous people of southern Mesoamerica. They date as far back as 1000 BCE.
For thousands of years, the Maya prospered as one of the greatest civilizations of its time. At its peak in the first millennia, the Maya lived across most of Central America and what is now southern Mexico.
The legacy of the Maya is really remarkable. They had a very complex, sophisticated, and multi-layered way to understand the world.
Researchers found that the Maya had a highly advanced understanding of astronomy and mathematics.
The Maya gave us profound insights into our relationship with the universe, cycles of time, astronomy.
They looked to the sky for many things. They practiced what is called naked eye astronomy without telescopes and charts and computer programs. The Maya were using their sight really, really acutely.
And they used their superior astronomical knowledge to calculate detailed patterns of time.
Many people consider the Maya calendar to be the most accurate of the ancient world.
The Maya believed that time is divided into cycles.
They said these are the cycles that you, humankind, will experience within this large window of time called a great world age, 5,125 years long.
The Maya believed the world experiences great cycles of time. And according to Maya creation mythology, the gods created and destroyed the human race various times.
The Maya could have an idea in the far future the world might be ending, but they did not have a date for it. There was a deep memory, at least in mythology, of gods creating and then destroying their creations.
When we talk about the end of a cycle, that brings up a lot of concern and a lot of images of fearing and catastrophic events.
According to the Maya calendar, we have reached the end of the current cycle. But little is known about what the Maya believed would mark the final days of their great cycle. To this day, much about the Maya remains shrouded in mystery. But a small part of their written history has been recovered in an ancient text known as a codex.
A codex is generally a very important book or manuscript. For the Maya, a codex is a religious or historical document that is painted on native paper or animal skin. The Dresden Codex is the most well-known.
Doomsday theorists say the Dresden Codex contains a prophetic section that predicts the end of the world.
Page 74 of the Dresden Codex has drawn a lot of interest, and even if you can't read the glyphs, the illustration is very compelling. There is a skirted figure who is probably a Maya priest. The figure is holding a jug, probably of water, and in many ways it fulfills a Westerner's notion of apocalyptic imagery, where there is water, there's a little bit of fire, and it actually matches some European codices about the apocalypse that were painted shortly before the year 1000.
Some have interpreted the images in the Dresden Codex as signs of world destruction, including devastating floods, violence, and disaster. But Kristen Graham does not believe this interpretation of the Codex means the Maya predicted doomsday.
The Maya had some creation stories, and in them they have descriptions of the underworld. So to have that page in the Dresden Codex is not really atypical for the Maya at all. Some of the imagery of the Maya is a little bit unpleasant for some people to look at, but it really, I think, has nothing to do with end times. I think the Maya had no conception that the world was going to end anytime. They had a belief in cyclical time. From what scholars know about the Maya sense of history and calendrics, they just thought the calendar would keep on going.
But some doomsday theorists believe that the end of the current Maya cycle will bring on a total global upheaval that they say we are already starting to witness.
We're already witnessing the warming of the oceans and the atmosphere and the ice melting and the sea levels rising. Superstorms wiping entire communities from the face of the earth.
But skeptics argue that linking the end of the Maya cycle to current global conditions is baseless.
Christianity has prophetic writing in it, and it may be that some modern readers look to the Maya and impose that worldview on a culture that wasn't Christian and didn't really have an idea about apocalypse.
There are some people who think that global warming will bring about the end of the world. Some people have connected that to ancient prophecies, but there is no connection. It's people reading into the data what they want to.
Still, some doomsdayers say that global warming is a clear sign of the end.
We are living in what the Bible calls the end of the age. Just the change of the climate, and the planet, and the wars, and the tsunamis, and earthquakes, and floods, and all these different plagues that are coming on the earth.
There are all kinds of things like great earthquakes happening in various places, famines, pestilences, diseases, tsunamis. We can look at the newspaper and we can look at the Bible and we can recognize that what Jesus predicted 2,000 years ago, these things are happening right in front of us. In Revelation chapter 11, verse 18, the Bible predicts that at some point God will destroy those who destroy the earth. I think that God speaks to us often through natural phenomena. And as we look at the scientific explanations, to me, it just fits in with the prophecy that right before the end, human beings will be destroying the earth.
Nostradamus believers say he too saw climate change as a sign of the end.
Because of heat like that of the sun upon the sea, the fish around Negroponte will become half-cooked. The local people will eat them when in Rhodes and Genoa there is a lack of food.
One possible interpretation of this quatrain is that it is about a global warming event. There are certainly many prophecies that talk about fish boiled hectic from the fire in the sky, and others dealing with great droughts across the grain belts of the northern hemisphere. It's described very clearly in Nostradamus' prophecies: global warming, rising oceans, population problems, global famine.
Doomsdayers say they see predictions of global warming from prophets throughout history.
And they all point to this time in history. They point to the time of the climate change.
A global climate disaster is one of the Doomsday Preppers' biggest fears.
A lot of people are worried about the climate change.
There's a big chain of events that's coming that's going to shape what's happening to us.
We are overdue for some mega disasters, whether they are disease, whether they are famine, whether they are drought, whatever. There's a lot of things that are interconnected. And I don't think it's going to be any one thing. I think it's going to be a series of things.
For us, it doesn't really matter what the event is. We're going to be prepared. We have multiple layers of defense. We have the physical barriers of the fences at the perimeter of the property. And then we have other barriers approaching the house.
If you can't hold what you have, if you can't defend your food stores or your water stores, you're just as dead as if you didn't have them.
As a last resort, Paul's family has a plan of escape.
If, and only if, things got so bad that we could not hold what we had, then we would bug out.
A bug out is where we're uprooting from our normal position and leaving as quickly as possible.
Okay, got him loaded up!
So the preppers practice their bug-out plan twice a year.
The importance of a drill is knowing that your plan has a chance of success. You don't know what it's going to be like until you've gone through it.
We will be ready, and we are ready to take action.
But there are many who think that Paul Range and his family are preparing for a disaster that is unlikely to ever occur.
There's no doubt at all that people can take lots of these doomsday threats far too seriously. People have bought into doomsday predictions, and then, of course, the world is carried on, and they've ended up feeling very silly and embarrassed and having to start again from scratch.
If we devote our lives to preparing for and defending ourselves against the most frightening of the possibilities, that we miss life itself. We miss the very things that make life worth living.
While it seems there will always be prophets predicting doom and darkness, skeptics maintain that prophecy is often nothing more than dark delusions. never come true.
End of the world prophecies, they are simply attention grabbers. You can't top it in terms of its